Here's to the next 50 years.
Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. Happy Geek Week. So since there's so much Marvel stuff going on this weekend and I just did a Loki video, I thought it'd be really cool to do an update on X-Men Days of Future Past. There have been so many behind the scenes pictures and teasers that have come out since Comic-Con, I thought it'd be really fun to talk some mutants. Let's talk about Geek Week first. Since Marvel debuted a new trailer for Super Wednesday, that's basically like Superhero Wednesday, Bryan Singer was not one to back down from the challenge. Obviously, X-Men being Fox, so different studio. Bryan Singer just posted this really cool behind the scenes image of them shooting this super fast Quicksilver scene. Obviously, they had to shoot it at a very high frame rate to simulate the super speed motion. He said it was about 3,600 frames a second, so they basically had to turn the lighting into like something like akin to the sun. It was just super bright just because of the way cameras work when you shoot that fast. Even though they haven't made that Comic-Con clip from Days of Future Past public yet, Bryan Singer has been really good about giving fans a lot of teasers and images from behind the scenes from his Twitter account. But don't worry, I'll tell you all about that Comic-Con footage. It was really good. In case you haven't seen it, it basically shows us kind of where the story starts and what some of the biggest beats are. So let's get started. So Bryan Singer's take on Days of Future Past is just like Joss Whedon's take on Avengers Age of Ultron. They're just changing a few things to kind of make it a little more suitable for a movie than the comic book or the original stories did. For example, they're changing the origin story of Ultron. So obviously some of the things in Days of Future Past are going to be a little bit different from the comic book, but they're pretty faithful. So the actual clip starts off with them in the far future, in this dystopian future where Sentinels have basically kind of destroyed the world and they're just kind of living in the wreckage. And what happens is that Professor X and the X-Men basically have to convince Wolverine to go back in time, to let his mind go back in time to warn these past X-Men. That's the first class version of X-Men. So obviously Wolverine will be the person going back in time. We don't know yet if Bishop's character will travel back in time too. There were some comic book versions and some TV versions of the character that physically travel back in time, but we don't really know yet if they'll be physically traveling in time in this movie. What we do know from recent interviews with Bryan Singer is that James McAvoy's Professor X character is just super depressed right now, while on the other hand, Michael Fassbender's Magneto is just kind of gaining in power and building his Brotherhood of Mutants. So obviously a big part of the story is them convincing James McAvoy to join the fight. There's actually this really cool scene in the teaser clip from Comic-Con where you see this scene with both versions of Professor X talking to each other, and it's basically Patrick Stewart's version of the character telling James McAvoy that he has to learn to hope again. So honestly, I think a big part of changing this dystopian future is going to be James McAvoy's character and his call to action, so to speak. One of the other really cool things they did at the Comic-Con panel was actually kind of intro Peter Dinklage's character. Obviously, pretty much everybody already knew who he was, but they just really made it official. And I like some of the viral images, like this. Do you like this? Do you like that mustache? Bryan Singer actually kind of laughed his way through the X-Men panel too, which I didn't think was quite a good thing. But I mean, I think it's funny, obviously, but it's like, the director was basically laughing at his spectacular mustache a little bit. And I don't think that Peter Dinklage thought it was too funny. I think he's just used to the seriousness that Game of Thrones brings. One of the really cool things I feel like we as fans really want to see, though, is X-Men going up against X-Men. So, like, X-Men Generation 1 versus X-Men Generation 2. Honestly, that Patrick Stewart and James McAvoy teaser isn't really so much a battle as it is just them kind of psychically talking to each other through time. They haven't really explained the time travel mechanism either, but I'll talk about that in a later video. Let me know in the comments, which two versions of the X-Men characters would you like to see fight themselves? I mean, wouldn't it be awesome to see Michael Fassbender's Magneto go up against Ian McKellen's Magneto? Who do you think would win? There is actually a good chance that we could see some stuff like that from behind the scenes, just some fun stuff, obviously maybe not officially in the movie, on the DVD bonus features, so hold out hope. So unlike the Thor trailer, we won't be getting a Days of Future Past trailer for a while. They just started filming the movie. But I will be covering Days of Future Past as new information comes out, and I will post the trailer as soon as it comes, so be sure to subscribe to get it. In the meantime, be sure to check out my review of that Thor trailer by clicking here, and you can learn all about why I think we need a Loki movie by clicking here. Thanks for watching. Happy Geek Week. High fives.